When God is talking about the sacrificial Sabbath, he called it a Sabbath. But when referring to the fourth commandment Sabbath, he calls it the Sabbath, a definite article. Friend, there should be no doubt in your mind that the sacrificial system contained meat offerings, drink offerings, new moon festivals with burnt offerings, and several sacrificial Sabbath days. All sacrificial Sabbaths were holy and to be kept holy. This makes it easy for many to confuse them with the fourth commandment Sabbath of Exodus chapter 20 verses 8 through 11. Colossians 2:14 through 17 said that the blotted out law was handwritten and against us, remember? None of the 10 commandments are against us. They were not handwritten, but spoken and depicted as written with the finger of God. Notice Exodus chapter 20 verse 1. And God spake all these words. God spoke the 10 commandments and wrote them on stone himself to suggest permanence. Notice that throughout the giving of the ordinances, God always told Moses to speak to the people. Moses wrote the sacrificial law in a book. Deuteronomy 31:24 to 26 says this. And it came to pass, when Moses had made an end of writing the words of this law in a book, until they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, take this book of the law and put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. So that you can't say, Lord, I didn't know the law. No, here it is, right here. It's written. Ephesians 2:15, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances. Here it is clear that ordinances were blotted out at the cross. They all pointed to Jesus and the cross. They became useless after the cross. Amen. Who can say that the 10 commandments are useless? So many treat them as if they are. God gave us clues. Colossians 2:14, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which were contrary to us, and took them out of the way, nailing it to his cross. Do you see the key words? Handwriting. Ordinances against us. These were clues. Exodus 18 verse 20 says, and thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work they must do. Moses is being told to teach the people ordinances and laws. Now Exodus chapter 12 verse 43 says, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. So you see, the sacrificial ceremonies were called ordinances. Each sacrificial Sabbath was to be held in its season. Leviticus 23:4 says, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim when? In their seasons. Numbers 28:2 says, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, my offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire for a sweet savor unto me shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season. The only part of the weekly Sabbath that was done away with were the sacrifices offered on that day. I believe they had to offer 2 lambs. You may ask, can the majority of the world be wrong? Have you ever known God's people to be in the majority? Think about it. God's people have always been few in relation to the professed Christian world. Some people might say, all you've got to do is love. And we should love. But we must be obedient to God's law too. We must be born again and filled with the Holy Ghost. We cannot keep God's law in our own strength. But we can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth us, according to Philippians 4:13.
Amen.
So if we'll accept Christ, we can obey his law.
Amen.
We can do it, folks. You can do it. But you got to be willing. You got to really want to obey it. But you got to be looking for truth. Say, Lord, please show me the truth, no matter what it does to whom. No matter whose toe gets smashed. Show me truth and I'm willing to obey it. Is that your intention? I hope it is, friends. Then in Romans 8:7 we find, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. And verse 8 says, so then, they that are in the flesh cannot please God. We must realize that sin is the transgression of the law. 1 John 3:4 says, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. So, do you see why some people would rather do away with the law? If there's no law, then there's no sin, for sin is the breaking of the law. Romans 3:31 says, do we then make void the law through faith? You know, so many people, I live under grace and faith. Paul says, God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. Romans 4:15 says, because the law worketh wrath, for where no law is, there's no transgression. See why folk want to do away with the law? Now that we know which law was blotted out, we now know which law Jesus meant when he said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Now that we let us understand that in Colossians 2:14 through 17, Paul is concerned with the fact that Jesus' blood was not accepted by many to be the last blood sacrifice required by God. So many of them wanted to continue in that yoke of bondage. So Paul was trying to set them free through the word. They want to continue in the yoke of bondage imposed by the sacrificial law. Paul is saying that those who have truly accepted Christ and his atoning blood should not be discouraged by those who have not accepted Christ. Paul is saying, let no man judge you or tell you that you should be making meat or drink offerings on those annual sacrificial Sabbath days, for they were only meant to be a shadow that pointed towards Jesus Christ, who would die for all who would accept him. So these were sacrificial Sabbath days that was never meant to last forever. Here are a few sacrificial Sabbaths. Passover from Leviticus 23:5 was a sacrificial Sabbath day that ended at the cross. The Feast of Unleavened Bread from Leviticus 23:6 was another sacrificial Sabbath day that ended at the cross. Wave sheaf offering from Leviticus chapter 23 verses 10 through 14 was a sacrificial or ceremonial Sabbath day that ended at the cross. This is what Paul was trying to impress upon the people. Blowing of trumpets was Leviticus 23:24 to 25. There's also an octave to the blowing of trumpets that occurred 8 days later. These were sacrificial Sabbath days that ended at the cross. And of course the Day of Atonement, that was only once a year from Leviticus 23, 27 to 32. That was the cleansing of the earthly sanctuary that occurred once a year, where the high priest went into the most holy place, the only time he went into the most holy place throughout the year. It was a sacrificial Sabbath day that ended at the cross.